Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Jeff Rutherford and Charlie Plummer about A Perfect Day for Caribou, playing at this year's Slamdance. Welcome both to the show, man. Thank you so much for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.
I mean, it's always exciting when, I feel like the festival is always going to be a very kind of exciting opportunity just to get the art out there. I think that's the point of it, to be honest with you. So, Jeff, my first question for you is, with Slamdance and with this film specifically, mindset-wise, because I'm sure this is a question you're going to get a lot. There's a lot happening with kind of the father-son relationship in this, but then there's also kind of the style of film this is and how it's shot and everything. What do you kind of want a lot of people kind of to take away from this? Is it kind of the story or kind of the aesthetic or a little bit of both specifically?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think that, it would certainly, at the end of the day, I think that it is certainly about the story and what's going on between these two characters.
Yeah.
I think as a filmmaker and as an audience member, when I go see films and watch things, I will say that I'm often as equally interested in how the film is doing what it's doing as what it's saying.
Yeah.
So I mean, that certainly then that's really is influencing the approach to making a movie like this. So, there were definite style considerations and things that we talked a lot about just in terms of, how we were going to do certain moments and Alfonso, who was our cinematographer, is amazing. And so, along with him, we sort of were able to create a language and a style that I think is pretty unique and really serves the story and the characters. And I think that's ultimately what you're really wanting to do, is just make sure that anything that you're doing that's sort of stylistic, or any sort of, significant choices you're making are serving the story, and they're helping the actors and they're not getting in the way. And I think that's sort of when a film is in dangerous territory, I guess, is when, that style or that approach seems to be the point of the film, rather than what's being said and what's being, portrayed.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlie, one thing I kind of loved about this is, and I hope you understand what I'm talking about, there's this kind of raw component to this film that you're kind of watching, and there's kind of a lot kind of happening with the characters, kind of figuring things out. And I feel like as an audience member, you're kind of just thrown in, seeing these characters doing a lot of like self-reflection and everything. And during the pandemic, we were doing a lot of self-reflection. So I feel like a movie like this becomes a lot more relatable. I'm curious if you thought about things like that, the self-reflection component of this film.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. I think that, as you mentioned with the pandemic, I mean, when Jeff first showed me the script, I think we were about 8 months into the pandemic, or around 8 months into the pandemic. And so it was pretty perfect timing. I was actually randomly in Budapest at the time and I had nothing to do. So I happily got the script in, and I was, other than going to the gym and walking around downtown Budapest, I didn't do much other than just think about life and think about all the existential things one thinks about when in Budapest during the pandemic. And then I got the script, and it was a beautiful canvas to put a lot of that feeling. And also just the conversations Jeff and I were having around the script also really informed me what the experience was going to be like. And then we just got really lucky that I think it was probably 9 months after that we were getting ready to go out to Oregon and shoot this. And the fact that we got to do it and take that kind of quality that I think Jeff and I were always able to capture in our conversations, but bring that into a working environment and trust another 20, 30 people, with that, and bring them in and have everyone contribute in such a powerful way. but yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of reflection went into the experience. And I think, also as life happens, the experience kind of timed for me at a moment in which I was thinking a lot about, deeper things myself. And so, it just kind of rolled out in this perfect way where we were all in the desert in Oregon, just getting to take in the stars every night and get to do this beautiful script during the day. And so it all just lent itself to that. But yeah, I think we were really lucky that existentialism was taken care of by everybody around and not beaten out of us throughout the process or anything like that.
No, totally. Okay, so this question's for Jeff, and then Charlie, I'd like you just to kind of comment in regards to kind of the aesthetic of it, because you kind of go there, you shoot the film, Charlie, you do your thing with Jeb, and then you kind of see the final product. But Jeff, I do want to know, I'm just going to throw this out there. Does this film work if it's not in black and white for you specifically? That's like my question. And I know you're like nodding your head because it's like, I don't know. I'm curious because I'm asking this question not knowing if there was like thousands of conversations of how this was going to be shot and what the color palette was going to be like. But like, was there a world where this wasn't a black and white film, or did you always want to make this film a black and white film?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can answer whether it works or not if it's not black and white. I will say this, just so I'm like painting the really.
I was giving you easy questions. I had to throw a hard one. Charlie, you approved this question. I had to throw a hard one. Come on.
Yeah, no, I think you can definitely answer this question. Pretty straightforward.
No, it's good. I like the idea of no, it's good. So I think what I'll say on a practical level is, it isn't the romanticism of decades past where, we actually only bought black and white celluloid. And I said, there's no going back because this is black and white stock. It's not as romantic as that. We did shoot, a film that ultimately just gets put onto hard drives. It is digital. But I think kind of, this is what I thought of as you asked the question, is that, at the end of the day, part of what you're doing, making a film, no matter what role you're fulfilling, like in that crew, whether you're in the cast, you are playing make-believe. And so there are elements as the director that I need to play make-believe too. I need to kind of live it with them in a different type of way. And so this is just where my mind went when you asked the question. Is one practical thing I asked the camera team to do was to never allow me to see it in color. So just like whether I look through the scope or whether there are monitors around the set, I just said, make sure that the settings are such that I can never see it that way.
Oh, you were prepared for this question. Charlie, he was prepared for this question.
Oh, totally. I think he was dramatically taking his time,
Oh, well, that's good. Oh, you were totally prepared for this.
He knows his moment. He's getting his light right.
No, I was intimidated if you were going to stop at, does this movie work if it's not black and white? You gave me a little bit more.
That too, because I just see Charlie as well, just kind of like Charlie, just like you were excited to see where that was going with the second half of it.
I mean, I was definitely. I actually didn't know what you just said. I didn't know that, so I am very happy you asked that question.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. No, that's really
cool. That's where I go. Is that I think. I think the film, I do genuinely believe it would be different. It would feel different. It would play different. But I did believe in it as a black and white film from the very start. And I just made a conscious choice to, even then went into the edit, that our editor has to apply a black and white look to the film right from the beginning.
Yep.
And at the risk of sounding like I have no imagination, I did say, just give me no perception of what this would be like if it was in color.
It was a 10 out of 10 answer, Charlie. Do you agree with me on that one?
I agree. 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10. Okay.
I'm going to end on that then. Charlie has to answer all the next.
Well, no, it's just, it's interesting too, Charlie, right? Because, as a storyteller yourself, Charlie, there's so many different styles of storytelling, and there's so many characters that you can play and so many worlds to dive in. And I feel like that's the best thing about being a storyteller, is diving into all these different worlds. But when you look at a camera like a movie like this, which is shot like a certain camera, like Jeff said, and like the aesthetic and the black and white, are those the things that you're kind of looking at projects as well too? Like the story, the script, it's a great script, it's a great story and everything. That's obvious. But like how things look. Are you at a point now where you're looking at what things are going to look like as well from aesthetic?
Yeah, I think that's always important, and it's always interesting, and it better informs what the process might be like, whether you're shooting on film or digitally. That does have an effect on an actor's job in terms of knowing how much room you have to go with certain things and how much you have to be dialed in. But no, I think, more so for me, like you said, I think less as maybe an actor and more as just someone who's interested in storytelling. I think that having those conversations and being on the same page about those decisions and just acknowledging that they do add up, whether you're, putting a lot of thought into them or not. And so it's really important to be aware. And it's funny because with this, I think it was something that we spoke about pretty early on, and then it kind of never came up again. But for me, it was always how, in the dialogue between Nate and Herman, there was a certain kind of unevenness that I think Jeff and I were always then interested in trying to find ways to connect to in other ways visually, whether it's through the clothing that they're wearing, through my facial hair, through the cigarettes, or through the black and white. I think they're all kind of little clues into that energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think it's always really fun to find ways that you can express those things
and
that aren't just in the words.
A quick follow-up to that before I throw it back to Jeff, but like, you've worked on so many kind of different projects of different stuff, like Spontaneous is one that comes to mind, everything. Do you really think that that's your favorite thing about being a storyteller, kind of diving into all these different worlds specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think losing yourself in something that feels completely connected to you, but also isn't, is an addictive and an infectious thing to be a part of. And I think anytime, that is what you're getting to do. And like you said, diving into that feeling more than anything is thus far I haven't felt anything like it other than being on a set and especially on indie films. I think that's when that energy kind of can just take over the environment. And so I do think that that's a hugely appealing part of the process because so much else is out of your control.
Yeah.
And I think it's really just the experience that and can count on. So yeah,
that's totally so well said. And gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. It was really great chatting with you both.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much, man. It was a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jeff, this is playing at so A Perfect Day for Caribou is playing this year at Slamdance, which is awesome. So can you do the quick plug specifically? Like, like people can kind of, it's going to be at the festival. Could they go to a website to find out show times or anything? Like, is there anything you could plug specifically?
Yeah. The film is screening. Its North American premiere is this Friday, 5:30 at the Treasure Mountain Inn in Park City, and then it's screening at the Treasure Mountain Inn again on Wednesday, and then the film will be available during the festival period online as well. So we've been lucky to show it to a couple festival audiences in Europe so far, and this is the first time we're getting to play it stateside. So we're really excited, and I think Slamdance is a great home for it.
Yeah. Is there any social medias to keep up to date with? Maybe the film company or the film? Is there anything or like a website or anything that people could check out? Or
yeah, I mean, at perfectdayforcaribou.com, right there. You can keep up to date there. And so
you guys got that. You guys got that domain. That's fantastic.
That's right. Somehow nobody was interested in that before we made it.
And Charlie, you have an Instagram account, right? It's the best way for people to keep up to date with everything.
Yeah, I do have an Instagram account. I'm pretty bad at keeping it up to date, but
it's a thing and it's there, right?
It is absolutely. You were
absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. A Perfect Day for Caribou is part of this year's Slamdance Festival. Until next time, this is Jeff, Charlie, and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.